There's no such thing as an original idea, and we see this time and time again in film. I'm not talking about remakes, reboots, and reimaginings. I'm talking about writers taking bits and pieces from other films that they love, or even two people who just happen to come up with very similar ideas. The Earth is populated by 8 billion people. It's not impossible. And while some may call it ripping off, and others may call it inspiration, for the sake of this video, I'm just going to call it cinematic parallels. Whether it be visuals, characters, or story, spotting cinematic parallels in horror movies has become one of my favorite things to do. My name is Ariel, and in this video, I'm going to take two completely different horror films with some suspiciously similar plot points. Now let's get to this parallel. 1991's The People Under the Stairs is a darkly comedic horror thriller that follows Fool, a young boy who teams up with two older thieves to break into the mansion of his rich landlords, Mommy and Daddy, to steal their hidden fortune and help his struggling family. Inside, they discover the house is filled with booby traps, secret passages, rooms locked from the outside, and evidence that the couple has been kidnapping, torturing, and eating people for years. Fool eventually finds a group of mutilated feral children trapped beneath the house, forced to survive by resorting to cannibalism. As Mommy and Daddy hunt him through their own maze-like home, Fool has to outsmart them, escape, and expose what's been living under the stairs. Now on to the next one. Frontiers is a brutal, ultra-gory 2007 French survival horror film that takes place during violent political riots in Paris. A group of friends fleeing the chaos head toward the countryside to hide out and escape the police. They stop at a remote roadside inn near the border, only to realize the owners are part of a vicious neo-Nazi family with a long history of kidnapping and butchering travelers. The group is quickly captured and separated, forced into a nightmare of torture, cannibalism, and underground horrors beneath the property. As the family's plans get revealed, one survivor fights her way through the compound in a desperate attempt to escape alive. These two movies are surprisingly full of similarities, despite being completely different in style and tone. I just want to apologize now for any mispronunciations to French names. Let's break it down. The exploration of class, race, and power is one of the biggest parallels between these movies. In People Under the Stairs, writer and director Wes Craven uses domestic horror to satirize class, power, racist exploitation, and the idea that the most respectable people can be monsters behind closed doors. He wanted to portray a house that reflects America itself, a space where poverty and criminality are complicated by the conditions people are trapped in. And while Wes Craven chose a more comedic route, Frontiers writer and director Javier Jones chose to portray similar themes through a grim and gritty tone and extreme violence, as he wanted to translate his own fear after the rise of extreme right political ideas during the 2002 French election. The main protagonists in both films are people of color, and both have resorted to criminal activity out of desperation. Fool is a poor black kid who commits a Robin Hood-style crime to help his sick mother. Yasmin in Frontiers is a Muslim youth turned criminal on the run, trying to survive a society that already sees her as disposable in a climate of political unrest. In both films, that outsider status matters because it makes the contrast even sharper when the so-called respectable homeowners are revealed as the real monsters. We see both of these protagonists lose their respective crew to the evil homeowners and fight their way to freedom through strategy. They are the moral center of the plot, despite being criminals, exposing or destroying the real evil, and also liberating those being held captive. Both films turn the safe setting of a home into a trap. People Under the Stairs is set almost entirely inside Mommy and Daddy's suburban mansion, a booby-trapped maze of secret passages and locked rooms that feels like a private prison. Frontiers does something similar with its remote roadside inn, but it expands into a bigger horror complex because the property also includes a slaughterhouse and vast mines beneath the property. Despite the difference in scale, the main similarity is that both locations are designed for control and containment. Both feature one or more key escape sequences through tight hidden routes of the maze-like settings. Fool spends major time in the passageways inside the walls, while Frontiers repeatedly pushes characters into a claustrophobic mine tunnel system to survive. A major difference between the families is that the Geisler family in Frontiers has more members, but the differences almost stop there. The matriarch and patriarch of the Geisler family and mommy and daddy share a lot of similar traits, habits, and twisted family values. For one, they're all racist and incestuous cannibals. The Geislers are literal neo-Nazis, obsessed with a pure bloodline, and mommy and daddy are racist slumlords who think that they are above the diverse tenets that they exploit. Both couples are also related, with mommy and daddy being brother and sister, and I can't remember if Frontiers made the exact relationship clear, but they do make it clear that the children do come from incest. As stated earlier, they're all cannibals, although it seems mommy and daddy may prefer their meat raw. Both films include a kidnapped young woman who survives by playing a daughter role. In The People Under the Stairs, Alice acts like the obedient daughter because it's the safest role she can occupy, even though she's clearly another victim that's just trapped in that house. In Frontiers, Eva functions in a similar way, acting loyal to avoid being killed, even though she's really being used by the family as a breeding mule and forced into that daughter position as a part of something much darker. Speaking of incest, cannibalism, and children, another major plot point of both films are the feral, mistreated, rejected children being held prisoner by these families. In The People Under the Stairs, mommy and daddy keep kids that they kidnap that refuse to live by their rules locked up in a pen located under the stairs. They're starving them and only feeding them human flesh from anyone unlucky enough to end up in that house. Frontiers shares a similar premise. The deformed, rejected, inbred children of a couple of the family members are locked away in a mine under the property where they too eat human flesh out of desperation to survive. The conclusion is, even though one movie is a satirical funhouse and the other is a brutal meat grinder, they're basically built from the same bones. If you haven't seen People Under the Stairs, I highly recommend it. It's a very engaging, tense, and funny 90s horror movie. There's a million great reasons why it's considered a classic. And while I enjoyed Frontiers, I would only suggest it to people with particular tastes. I highly recommend it for lovers of extreme, almost realistic violence. I'm not talking about kills that are just super bloody and over the top, but still fun like Terrifier. I mean kills and torture scenes that'll make you feel pretty bad about life. If you loved extreme French horror movies like High Tension or Inside, or even like films like Hostel or The Hills Have Eyes, this is probably within your taste. If you agree, disagree, or maybe you have found even more similarities that I didn't, drop a comment. And if you found this video interesting, please like it and subscribe to my channel for more videos. My next video will probably not be comparing two movies, but it will still be entertaining, I promise. And if you haven't checked out my other video, which is also a parallel, I compare 1982's Basket Case to 2021's Malignant. Check it out.